Hey there. In today's video, I want to talk about finger curls, probably an exercise I use every single time I go climbing. Let's talk about what finger curl is. A finger curl at its most simplest form is basically when you just start with an open hand and then you close it slightly past or as high as you possibly could take it. Then you extend it back down and you repeat, and you're literally just curling your fingers. When you're doing the exercise, obviously you're just not doing this mindlessly without putting any weight into it. What you actually want to do is you actually want to sag a bit of weight into it using your body weight, and then start to curl your fingers so that you feel a little bit of tension in your fingers and your forearms. Inherently, you could think about finger curls as bicep curls, but just for your fingers, hence the curling in the name of the finger curl. Let's talk about what it's useful for. So predominantly, I like to use finger curls whenever I'm warming up when I climb. And I'll just take an edge, any edge. As you can see, I'm literally just taking this top of wood and just using it to curl. Of course, you'll be doing this on a hangboard or whatever edge you find. You can also simply just take your hand, apply pressure on your fingers, and finger curl this way, but I find a little bit more useful when there's an edge. And by just constantly moving your fingers up and down, you're just lubricating the joint, making sure they feel nice and warm. Because climbing is mostly an isometric activity in terms of your fingers, you're hardly ever gonna hit a hold and then curl it in motion. You're mostly just gonna hit it, leave it, and then continue that way. And therefore, we never really get to train or use our concentric muscular formation of the fingers. For the uninitiated, concentric is when you're contracting a muscle or shortening the muscle belly. Eccentric is when you're elongating the muscle or lengthening of the muscle belly. And isometric is when you're just holding it, doing neither or. The way I view it, when we're warming up, no matter what type of warming up we're doing, we're always going to try to move our joints through a full range of motion. So therefore, when I'm doing my hangboard warm up, instead of just using one range of motion, two range of motion, and three range of motion, I'll hit all of it, making sure I get all the angles at once, because I want to get motion into my warm up in my fingers, even though climbing itself is a very isometric like activity in terms of the fingers. And I'll mix isometric along with the concentric nature of finger curls. For example, let's say I'll do a simple hang for say 10 seconds, and then I'll do a whole bunch of finger curls. Maybe I'll go right side first, left side first. And then this way, I'll just alternate, make sure my fingers feel warm. The side that's not being curled is just hitting an isometric. And then I'll just keep switching like that. Doing it this way, I get motion into my fingers, get the blood, get it nice and lubricant, especially good when they're really cold. So now I hope you see that finger curls are really good for warming up the fingers. And it's not too bad as a cool down either. Now, another thing that I really like to use finger curls for is whenever I injure my fingers severely or even slightly, or I feel like my fingers are slightly tweaky, I like to use finger curls as a form of rehabilitation. So recently, I'll use a real world example. Recently, I messed up my ring finger on my left hand. So one of my forms of rehab would be, I'll take one hand, obviously the one that's injured, my finger, I'll just isolate it and I'll try to apply as much force as I can downwards. Obviously, the amount is not a lot. And then by doing that, I'm starting to stretch it out. I'm starting to make it feel good, but that's just the isometric part. And then from here, I'll try to put some motion into it, applying as much force as is comfortable or just to the point where I feel a little bit of pain. And by constantly moving it, even though the pain is slightly, I'm letting my finger know that, hey, even though you're totally messed up, you could still move, and I'm going to keep moving you so that you don't become stiff and stuck in your old ways of being always perpetually injured. Now, of course, when I'm doing my finger rehab work, or in this case, you could also use it as a form of finger injury prevention, you will go through all your fingers, even the ones that aren't injured, on both hands, just to keep things nice and even and, again, prevent injuries. Now, what I have noticed from doing these finger curls and trying to apply as much force as I can just on one finger is that surprisingly my ability to say hit a mono and my ability to be comfortable and confident in it really shot up. And we're just going to call that getting used to the motion, because a lot of times when we climb, it's always going to be with 4 fingers. And then when we introduce a new problem to the mix, say a pocket, a lot of people may not like pockets, but that may be just simply because you haven't spent enough time in this position because you never particularly trained it. And I think a good way to train pockets, because you're always going to be pocket with open hand, is to do finger curls like this, just to start to acclimate your body to the sensation of what it feels like to have your fingers extended and then to have your fingers contracted in just this 2-finger pocket positioning. Because when you do pockets, you never want to hit it with a half crimp. Therefore, you're never going to be able to train this on the wall. But off the wall, where your feet on the ground and your ability to load manage, by just applying as much force as is comfortable and just do finger curls, you start to acclimate your fingers to these different types of situations, building strength in multiple ranges of motion and making your fingers feel much more comfortable in a situation where it would normally not be. All right, so that's the finger rehab injury prevention part. And I hope you see that finger curls are really good for that. Now, of course, finger curls in itself is literally a curling motion. A concentric exercise is an exercise, and with any exercise, you can load it and increase strength in the fingers that way. Now, the way I will go about doing this, I haven't done it, but if I was to, now, if you're a total beast, you will literally just lift your feet off the ground and just start curling your body weight. However, I don't think anybody is that beastly, if I'm to be honest. And I find the issue of just doing it with your feet on the ground while curling your fingers is it's really hard to track your progress or how strong your fingers are getting, even though that way could work. Therefore, the solution would be to do what's known as a no-hang, but just finger curl like this. Now, right now, I have it attached to a glove for demonstration purposes, but obviously you will have it attached to some actual weight. And you would do it the exact same way as you would like just a normal no-hang, but instead of moving your entire arm, you're just gonna keep it straight. You're gonna extend your fingers, and then using just your finger strength, and this is really hard to do, you're just gonna literally curl your finger as high as you can, and then extend it back down, and then repeat this for reps. Now, I have never actually done these myself, so I don't know the validity or the applicable transference to climbing that just doing pure finger curls will have to climbing, but I can only imagine that it's really, really healthy for your fingers because you're moving it through a full range of motion as opposed to just constantly isolating it in X, Y, Z range of motion, right? So I do recommend doing no-hang finger curls if you want to strengthen your fingers using, like, obviously you're going to be using lighter weight. And if you feel like your fingers, whenever they're moving or when you're trying to close them, feel a little bit tweaky, so I would recommend this one. Also a good form of rehabilitation if you just reduce the weight. Very similar to what we were talking about previously. Also, if you want, you could do your finger curls facing away from the board just to activate the angle slightly differently. And that's all I really got to say about finger curls. I think they're fantastic. Started doing them about 10,000 years ago when I injured my finger for rehabilitation purposes. And I haven't not done them since. I should do them more with more of an emphasis on strengthening them, but I don't. I mostly just use it as a way to warm up and slightly cool down. But I think by strengthening it, it can only prove beneficial as previously stated. Anyways, do finger curls. They're fantastic. If you want to see a video of me projecting some of my longest long-term project is right here. If you want to see a video of me talking about a bunch of tips involving the arms right here. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, partner.